Hey guys, we're going to be solving one-step equations today, okay? So the main thing you have to know with solving equations is first what an equation is. An equation is kind of like the mathematical statements, but you're going to see an equal sign now, okay? So you got to look for that equal sign and you're going to see variables. So it has a variable and it has an equal sign. The variable means it is unknown. Okay, we don't know the number that goes there. It's our job to figure it out. Okay, let's go ahead and press pause. Copy the notes down. Make sure you do leave this many lines in between because that's how many lines it takes to solve it. Just a few, but I want to make sure you have enough. Okay, and then I'll come back and show you the steps. Okay, so the steps. First step in solving an equation, because what we have to really figure out is what number belongs there to make this statement true. Okay. So step one is always to isolate the variable. Isolate. That means to what? Think about it. You want to be alone, okay? Nobody else can be on his side. So if you look here, just like with the adding subtracting, the variable needs to be left alone, okay? Two, it's just like yesterday, inverse operation. We do the opposite. But today, you're going to be seeing multiplication, which is when you see a number next to a variable, that's multiplication, okay? Or division, that's where you see the fraction bar or you see an actual division sign, okay? So we're going to be doing those two operations today. So the inverse of multiplication is division, and the inverse of division is multiplication, okay? And again, your integer rules are all here, okay? So you still have to remember all your integer rules. So let's get started with the examples, okay? So the first example I have here for you is 3x equals 27. 3x equals 27. I want to isolate the variable, okay? Which means this variable right here, he wants to be left alone. And just like I told you the other day, that equal sign is kind of like the wall between two rooms, okay? So he wants to kick the 3 out of his room. To kick the 3 out of your room, we do the inverse, the opposite, okay? So remember, when you have a number right next to a variable, that means to multiply. So the opposite of multiplying, dividing. So I'm going to divide, and you can use the division sign here. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. Because the whole point is to keep this balanced. That's what an equal sign means. It means whatever is over here is equal or the same as over here. So 3x is the same as 27, okay? So since I divided 3 on one side, I have to divide by 3 to the other to keep us balanced, equal, okay? That way no values have changed. So now we can go ahead and do the math. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I don't have to put a 1 there. Remember, we have that invisible 1. 1 times x is still going to give you just x. So I don't have to put the 1 there. Equal sign comes down. And now we have a 27 divided by a positive 3. Well, 27 divided by 3 is 9. And since they're both positive, my answer is positive. Okay? Now to check your work, we're going to plug in 9 in place of x. So we're going to put 3 times 9 equals 27. And when I multiply 3 times 9, it does give me 27, which means I figured out the correct number that belonged there. Okay? That's what you're doing today. That's what solving equations means. Trying to find out the number to put there to make the whole statement true. Okay? Go to number 2 now. We have negative 3n equals 39. This is negative, not subtraction. If it was subtraction, you would see a number in front of here. I don't see one. So it's a negative 3n. So I am multiplying 3 negatives times some number, and it has to equal 39. Okay? So step 1 again is always to isolate the variable. He wants to be left alone in his room, but the negative 3 is in there. We have to kick the negative 3 out. To do that, do the inverse operation, okay? Not the sign, operation. So the operation that's happening here is, again, multiplication, because you have a number right next to a variable. So that is multiplication. So the opposite of multiplication is division. So you can write it like this if you want to, the dividing sign. Sometimes I write it like this because this also means divided by. Okay? So you can do it either way. You're going to see me more likely do it this way just because it looks cleaner. So this still means -3 divided by -3. This means 39 divided by -3. Now notice the number stayed the same. The -3 stays a -3. Okay? That's what we're just doing, the operation, not the sign. So now we're going to go ahead and divide. So -3 divided by -3 is a +1. And that's the goal here, is to get that +1. Because if I had a -1, it's not going to fly because that's going to make my variable a negative. We don't want that, okay? So -3 divided by -3 is a -1. And we don't have to put a 1 down there. Remember, it's the invisible 1. And now we do the math. 39 divided by -3. Well, I'm going to divide like they were normal. So 39 divided by 3 is 13. But now look at the signs. This is a positive and a negative. And if you remember integer rules, our positive and negative rules, they told you that if you're multiplying or dividing unlike signs, or the signs are different, your answer is always going to be negative. Just like that. And if you want to check your work, if I take -3, multiply that by -13, will I get a +39? Well, 13 times 3 is 39. A negative times a negative does result in a positive. Oops, I don't know why I did that. So you would have +39, which means we did that correctly. Good job. So now let's look at division. So y divided by 4, that's how you say it, y divided by 4 is equal to a -19, okay? So isolate the variable, that's the y, okay? Because we have to figure out what number goes there, that when I divide by 4, I'm going to get a -19, okay? So we do the opposite operation. The opposite of dividing by 4 is to multiply by 4 to both sides, okay? Just like that. Now, when you multiply by 4 to 1/4, because really what this could, you can imagine it as it being 1/4. 1/4 times 4/1 will give you 4/4, which is 1. And that's the whole goal here of multiplying and dividing, is to get that invisible 1, okay? Now over here, you multiply. So 4 times 9 is 36, carry my 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3, 7. Now take a look at your signs. Negative times positive, signs are different. The answer will be a negative, just like that. Okay, good. Let's try another one. I like the division equations more just because it's easier, so I'm just multiplying. All right, so let's look at this. V divided by -7 equals a -6, okay? Step 1, isolate the variable. Okay. Step 2, figure out the inverse operation. So in this problem here, I have division. Okay, that is division. So the opposite of dividing by a -7 is to multiply by a -7. Remember, you're multiplying by the exact same number. So that -7 stays a -7. Okay, we're not changing the sign, we're changing the operation. So now, these two cancel to be 1. -7 times, -7 times -1/7 will give you a +1. So they kind of cancel each other out, they undo each other. And 6 times 7 is 42. My signs are a negative times a negative. If you multiply signs with the same, your answer stays a positive. So +42. And you can check your work. I forgot to check the work on the other one. Sorry, we'll go back and check it. If I plug in a 42 up here, 42 divided by -7, does it give me a -6? Well, let's check. 42 divided by 7 is 6. But look, I have a positive divided by a negative. My signs are different. So I did it correctly. Let's prove it over here. Okay, so here I have -76 divided by a +4. Does that give me -19? Okay, 76 divided by 4. 4 goes into 7 one time. 2, 3 left over. 36, that goes 9 times. Look at your signs. Negative divided by a positive will give you a negative. Okay, so yes, we did it correctly. Okay, so you're just doing the opposite. So if you see something like this, a number next to a variable, you are going to be dividing to find your answer. If you see something like this, that is division. You are going to be doing multiplication to find your answer. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and do some try it outs. We'll see how you do. Okay, so there you go. Go ahead and press pause, try them on your own. All right, and then come back and press play, and we'll see if you got it right. All right, let's see if you got them. So I'm going to isolate the variable. That shows me that the 7 has to go. This is multiplication. The opposite of multiplying by 7 was to divide by 7 to both sides. And that'll leave me with, because those cancel, x, you can put a line there if you need to, equals 35 divided by 7 is 5. You can check your work. 7 times 5 is 35. Next one. Negative 2w equals negative 74. So I have to get rid of the negative 2, okay? The negative 2 is multiplying. It's not subtraction, it's multiplication. So the opposite of that would be to divide by a negative 2. The negative stays with the 2, okay? And now we do the math. These two pretty much cancel each other out. So w equals 74 divided by 2. Let's see, 2 goes into 7 3 times, and 2 goes into 14, 7. My signs are negative divided by negative, which gives me a positive answer, and I'm done. And if I check, negative 2 times a positive 37, that gives me a negative 74. Okay? Next two, let's see. Isolate the variable, because this means x divided by a negative 2 will give me a negative 14. So I need to get rid of the negative 2. The operation here is dividing by a negative 2. So the opposite would be to multiply by a negative 2. And I always put my negative 2 like that, or my negative numbers in a parenthesis when I do it here, just to remind myself, hey, it's a negative, it's not subtraction. Okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and these cancel, these undo each other. Excuse me. And now do 14 times 2, 28. Now I go back and look at the signs because of the rules of positive and negatives. A negative times a negative will give you a positive because they are like signs, and your answer is a positive 28. Check your work. 28 divided by a negative 2, well, 28 divided by 2 is 14. But since I'm dividing a positive by a negative, it'll stay in negative. Got it right. And the last one. N divided by 4 equals 12. So here is my isolation of the variable, n. He wants to be left alone, so I need to get rid of the 4. We do the opposite of that. So instead of dividing by 4, I'm going to multiply by 4 on this step. These undo each other, so they cancel. And 12 times 4, let's see, 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 1 is 4. They're both positive, so my answer just stays a positive 48. And check your work. 48 divided by 4, it gives me 12. Okay? All right. So you have your assignment for today. So go ahead and get started on that. And I will see y'all later at Google Meets. If you have any questions, okay, bring them to the meets. All right, guys. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye.